Welcome to episode 11 of Crown Unfiltered. This is a podcast about car design. It's raw, it's a little uncouth at times, but we aim to cut through the noise. I'm your host, Sam Ofsowitz. Today I'll be joined by Aldo Sica, who is an interior designer for a luxury performance car brand. I'm also joined by James Hope, who is an executive design director, most famous for designing the iconic Ford GT90, as well as being the person to lead the team that gave the Chinese brand Chery its very own and desirable design language. Today we're going to do things a little bit differently. I was sent through some questions by a group of students, and I thought it would be best to enlist the help of James and Aldo to give me a more rounded response, less one-sided. Both guys have, as you know or may not know, they've both been on the podcast before. They both also know each other, and I thought it would be the most comfortable setting, given that we've never done this. This is obviously the first time that I'm trying this format, so please tell me in the comments below whether or not you felt it worked, whether it didn't. Maybe you have questions yourself. I don't know, but engage. If you are not in a position to sponsor the show, then please subscribe at least. That's it. That's all. I hope you enjoy it. Much respect.
Rolling start.
Okay, so we are here with James Hope and Aldo Sica, and we're going to try something new today. We have been given a list of questions from a group of students. The only details I know of them is the guy, his name is Ashish Makija.
Okay.
And this was a group of them that got together and put a list of questions together. So I don't know if we're going to get through all of them, and some of them are quite generic, but we'll try and make sense of them and do our best to answer. Yeah?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Awesome. So the first thing is, the first question is, thoughts on renders or concepts seen on Instagram?
Oh.
What's Instagram? No, I'm joking. Yeah.
No, we've spoken about it already.
Okay, so
you,
because you,
Okay.
Yeah, I guess you Aldo's got quite a strong opinion on this.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I would just repeat, I think Instagram is a great place to shine, especially for students or whoever needs to get to a contact and needs to get to a connection in the industry. So I think it's great for this kind of people. It's a great tool. And otherwise, it's a place that can mislead a bit on who's doing what in the studios. Somebody might be having a bit more free time and posting a bit more sketches, while somebody else is still working quite committed on the real projects and therefore is not so often on Instagram. But that's not so important. So for the students, for him, I would recommend to use it.
Okay. James, do you have any?
Same answer.
Okay.
No. No, well, that's my answer for every question, by the way. No. So when I was in school a while ago, reference is super important.
Oh, you mean like crediting where you've?
No. I mean we, at this time, the internet and things were more in its infancy, but anywhere where you could draw a reference, from car illustrations that you liked or whatever, and we would make a book, and they encouraged that in the school. You make a book. Right, and it's like inspirational images.
Okay, yeah.
And what that did, and it's still the same today, but you would develop your own style.
Yes.
But it would be based on, I really like this style and this style and this style and this style, and I've got these images cut out in my little scrapbook and everything, and I'm gonna blend it all together. I'm gonna take what I like from those to create my own style.
Okay.
Right. But reference was really important. And now you've got internet, Instagram, all these social media where people are posting great stuff, and you've got so much content that you can just draw on. I think it's fantastic. Now, obviously, if you're working in an OEM, you need to be a little bit careful. You can't show things that are sensitive.
Okay.
And you should know the difference. But it's there's so much at your fingertips right now, especially when I was at school, to draw on for inspiration.
Okay. And if we just for a moment talk about the negative aspect of it, because the second part, the question 2 is kind of, it's sort of related. It says the question is, a common saying is that Instagram is often more of a show-off tool. True. So I think that's maybe is accurate. I think something that's a more interesting question to ask is that if we are all going to the same pool of inspiration to draw from, is that really moving things forward in a in a progressive way?
Well, Sam, I got a lot of messages coming from after the episodes we did record. I got a lot of messages from students, which was a great feedback for us. And many of them were asking me, like, would it be worth if I go to study to that specific school, or I would like to study, but in my own country, and it's not such a famous school. Do you think it's good enough? And therefore, for inspiration in terms of styling, maybe, it can get tricky. But for inspiration, as he meant, like maybe like in terms of comparing yourself into a worldwide scenario.
Like benchmarking.
Yeah, benchmarking, exactly. Then it's great because it doesn't matter where you're studying. You don't compare yourself just to your classmates, but you compare yourself, at least in terms of skills, drawing on paper or with Photoshop and so on. You can compare yourself to students all around the world. So that would be a positive. I don't see the negative.
Yeah, I guess that is a very positive thing. Yeah, for sure. Because I mean, that was not even really, even 10 years ago, it wasn't really Instagram wasn't really being used for that.
Yeah, not at all.
No. Okay. All right. So on to question 3. Interior design is often a lot less talked about than exterior. Is it more challenging in general?
I think it is, actually.
Well,
it's a different animal.
It's a completely different world, there is a certain complexity in the interior that maybe you don't face on the exterior. The exterior may be something you do more instinctively. I want to guess. I don't know. You tell me.
Yeah, I think the interior is much more emotional. That's kind of what generally attracts and gets the most attention, let's say. I would say the more glamorous part.
Exterior.
Yes. Exterior. But interior has evolved into such an incredibly important aspect versus, going back not that long ago where interiors were, your radio and your HVAC and these things. And now it's your UV, UX, and all the ergonomics considerations. And there's a lot more complexity, in my opinion, in interiors than exteriors.
And if you think about the cars upcoming in the future, it might be that the experience is way more in the interior rather than in the exterior. Think about like the upcoming S-Class. It's all about the experience inside the car, and partially, maybe even 50% is about what you don't see. They talk about invisible luxury.
Right.
And
shy tech.
Shy tech.
Yeah.
Okay. High tech, shy tech.
High tech, shy
Hidden
tech.
technology.
Okay.
Yeah. And beyond that, when you look at the physical part, the real object of the interior, you have so many more aspects. It's not just a sheet of metal and then some components like the headlamps, but you have so many issues by the ergonomics, by the way you're going to trim, the shape. So you're going to also need to acknowledge what kind of part you're designing, what's going to be the material that makes this part. And eventually, if it's a soft material, how does it react? What kind of hard edges I can afford? How does the trim shop is going to create, for example, this seat rather than how they're going to wrap around a door handle on the door panel and so on. So there is a certain variety of aspects that involve the interior design. Maybe
Absolutely.
in a more busy way than the exterior.
And perceived quality plays a much bigger role in interior.
Okay.
Like what you're saying, you have to deal with the trimming of the seats, which is we used to call rags in bags.
Rags
Right.
and bags.
And then you have all the matching and the grain matching, the color matching.
Okay.
That's in interior. That's really quite critical. Where the exterior is much more forgiving.
Okay. That's maybe quite an interesting segue into, I don't know exactly which question it is, but there's another question in the list about the different areas in design.
Mm-hmm.
So, you were just talking about something that probably a color materials designer would be responsible for eventually.
Right.
So we've the different departments within design is something that is maybe not that clear for everyone starting out. So we've got exterior design, which is quite obvious what that is. Then you've got interior design, again fairly obvious, and then you've got color materials, which has historically chosen. It was maybe not as much of a complex position as what it is now, especially with 3D printing and everything. But to simplify what the role is in general is, choosing and developing color and materials, right?
Well, also you got series differentiation, which is your base vehicle. It is if you want just the bare bones, but then you start, you go to the configurator and, I want this content and this content and this content. And all that complexity, especially on the interior. On the exterior, maybe you have some wheel options, you have some color options, some headlamp options. But on the interior, starts to get really complex.
Okay.
Go from base to your mid level to your luxury or high end model
trims,
or sport trim.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so you need that those people are generally responsible for like categorizing all those different things and creating.
Yeah, you can get into a lot of complexity very quickly, especially factory complexity. But the other thing that's interesting about series differentiation, you can actually elevate. It goes together with the brand elevation. So you might have a normal entertainment system, the basics. But then you have the branded. You have the Bose or whatever.
Okay.
But all that, as you get up as well in the content level, that can also elevate your the brand experience and the brand image. So there's a lot of complexity, not only just with the content and having that content at different levels for the consumer to choose, but also the effect on the brand.
Yeah, and speaking about hidden figures also, like I don't really believe that interior designers are the hidden figures rather than the color and trim designers, for example. And especially in brands like our brand, like color and trim is such an important department. There is, I don't want to say a decade, but there is a huge amount of years in which from the launch of a Halo product to the launch of the next Halo car, we keep on going and we keep on selling eventually thanks to color and trim. So color and trim designers
you're almost creating a new product out of an existing product. I mean,
well, yeah, you can show the product in tons of different flavors, but beyond the customization, even the choice of the materiality, it's fundamental. In a brand like our, we have this no plastic philosophy, which sounds like a limitation, but it's not at all. So it means simply that all the material you see, especially talking about metals, what you see is what you get. What you
genuine.
Yeah, it's genuine. What it feels and perceive like what it, aluminum. What it feels like aluminum is real milled aluminum, and so on. And even for a choice of the amount of polishing of the aluminum, a color and trim department would come with a dozen of plates of different shades, which eventually they only understand. For us, is already like challenging sometimes to get the shade differentiation, but they do understand that, and they really make this 1% more to get to the 100% level of quality that you want to reach. So they are a fundamental part, and therefore I really invite you to speak also to color and trim designers.
It's such a deep, especially today. It's such a deep topic.
I think historically it's definitely not a department that is as necessarily been as glamorous as some of the others. But as you say, like, you know, it's so easy to overlook the things that they do. I mean, it's not just picking a paint color.
No, not at all.
Well, no, to your point, you know, if you touch real aluminum, you sense, you know, it maybe have a little bit cooler, or, you know, versus plastic, you can actually tactily feel, or rubbers. Some rubbers are like tacky and sticky, and others are really smooth and silky. And there's also such a, you know, almost a science in that sensory perception that gives you a quality feel to the product. Now, these general materials are generally more expensive than plastic. So you're going to have them probably on your higher end vehicles, but they make a big perception difference to the perceived quality.
Okay. Very good. Moving on, departments, digital design. We all know what they do.
Yeah, well, you have the 3D modelers, you have the visualization department. Not in our case, but I assume in studios where you've been working, there were also interface designers, maybe?
Sure, yeah, absolutely. That's also another big point that's emerged, I would say, recently.
But so are we gonna differentiate between HMI and UX, or the same thing, or are we talking about UX?
Well, so there's ergonomics,
okay,
right? Which is basically, everything's in the reach zone and the comfort of the occupant. And then there's the usability, right? UX, UI, and especially with the touch screens and all the interfaces in the vehicle. Now that needs to be all custom designed for the brand.
Okay.
And that's just a field that's exploding right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
And visualization as well, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. And how would you sum up visualization for the young boys and girls out there, and exes?
No, it's an interesting word. It's not really connected to a designer's job. Eventually, you might come from a different background if you want to do this. Eventually, you're a great photographer, and then maybe you, rather than traveling around the world to get a great beauty shot, you can easily do it with an environment and with a background and so on. But definitely important for selling the new designs already on the board, already in the inner sphere of the company. The more juicy is the image, the more you have chances to sell this product already to the management.
Yeah, the bosses are human. You put something on the wall that just shines and looks fantastic, and it's light and shadow, and just that kind of rendering, like we talked about last time, that you would put on your wall as art.
Okay.
It sells. The danger, it could be, maybe it's not the best design. It's always subjective, but it's sold by the rendering, by
totally.
the drama, the excitement, I like the way it's all shiny and stuff. So, versus the content.
Okay, all right, but that sort of stuff, if it's outsourced, can also be crazy expensive, right? So, is that also, that's also something that you feel is money well spent? If you are like to spend, I don't know, 200 grand on an animation, for example.
It's a good question.
That is a good, yeah, okay, all right.
I suppose it depends on the goal. For advertising, it can be money well spent.
Sure.
Internally, maybe not.
Okay.
But it's no different than when we were sketching on paper. The people who did the most exciting sketches are generally the ones that were more likely to be chosen because the sketches were exciting.
Okay.
The people who exaggerated the wheels, put the 30-inch wheels, versus the poor guy who's like, well, I want to be true to the package. And then, they got this car on the wall that has like small little wheels, and it's accurate, but it's not selling.
So authenticity is overrated.
In selling, probably.
Okay.
I don't know what you think. I think so. Designers always cheat the sketches,
Right.
and
okay.
and
it's totally
visualization
acceptable.
is another way to do that.
Okay.
It's another way to sell
Okay.
yourself.
All right. Okay. Is blah 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 blah. This is another social media question. What is a brand's strategy behind online design challenges, given that students are not always encouraged to take part in them? I don't really understand the last bit.
Me neither.
Okay.
Maybe industry people aren't encouraged to take, because if you're working for a company, they don't want you really working for another one, do they?
But they're saying that students are not encouraged to take part in them. That's not true, is it?
I don't know. We didn't make any design challenge.
Yeah, well, design challenges are generally open to everybody. I mean, some companies have gone a bit more like Volvo and Polestar have just recently done like a very well planned out challenge recently where there were certain prizes and all the rest of it. But I think everybody was open to take part in it. I don't think.
Yeah, I mean, it comes to my mind the Koenigsegg one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly.
So
Right.
this was very well perceived. A lot of people joined in and they won caps and so on. But beyond the caps and the prize, I think this has collected a lot of people from the students or just the passionate people who wanted to release a doodle, but also to the professionists. So I've seen a lot of people working for other companies releasing very high quality renderings. Indeed, eventually they did develop 3D models just for that one challenge. So once again, I do wonder how much free time they had to do that.
Yeah,
but
right.
that was quite a result.
Maybe what would be quite interesting to explore is like I know some designers that are more than capable of at least being finalists at the very least of these competitions that out of principle decide I don't want anything to do with this because they feel that certain they feel that this is just
exploitation
or a free way to get ideas.
I think there is that. I think there's two sides to it. One, yeah, you can generate ideas for your project in the studio and outsource that and draw on the social media to make that audience of inputs bigger. At the end of the day, your design studio needs to translate and make that into a great product. A great sketch. It's easy to make a great sketch.
Right.
Well, okay, let me say it's easier to make a great sketch than to translate that to ensure you have a great product. Just because the constraints are more.
Yeah,
you've got budget constraints, you've got technical constraints. And that's a lot of the big challenge. You'll see a great sketch, you'll put the big wheels on it, the leadership will pick it, and then you're working on the actual package with the engineers have developed, which has small wheels, real limitations, and that doesn't look like the sketch.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I think like from these kind of challenges also, if a brand would release such challenge, they won't really get so lucky to get a new entire design for free. So it's not like an abuse of people unpaid just to get a car.
Yeah, they get an
but
idea.
What you get some features maybe. So if somebody on his own proposal, even if it's just one view, one render, if that somebody did manipulate one particular corner of the car in an interesting way, maybe this is something you can put on a wall in the studio and keep it in mind. But overall, in terms of design language and eventually strategy, I rarely see something on Instagram or online that it looks more advanced than what we have in the studio. And that's generally because people, what they refer to is what is on the market right now. They don't see what's planned in the studio for the next 10, 12 years, no? So what people design around is what they see right now on the street. And that's why eventually they don't do this next step to think, okay, could that brand do? What did they plan for the next dozen of years? And then I design around that. They rather make their own proposal around what it's currently being released.
Okay.
No, that's true. That's a really good point. And some countries have some companies and countries have done this kind of outsourcing, and you'll see the sketch. You'll see the the front 3/4, rear 3/4 side. So that's what the vehicle should look like, and they're normally quite tight. So it's very descriptive. Then you see the car that came out.
Completely different.
Well, yeah, that's what I was talking about. You need to be careful. Your sketch, you exaggerate to sell it, but you've got the task to make it into production, and the expectation's high. And you see a lot of these things where the sketch is really nice. You see the car, you're like, what happened?
James, you talked about the first podcast that we did together about when you were in charge of a studio and you were outsourcing work, and you were saying that you are not interested in seeing this big polished rendering. You are paying for ideas, so you want to see a bunch of different ideas.
Correct.
This is maybe a little bit related to the notion of the sketch challenge, but so would you? I mean, to say that a sketch challenge is exploiting students, I think is not that you said that, but to have this notion to think that the student is being exploited because of a sketch challenge, I don't necessarily agree with that, because I think that either you want to do it or you don't want to do it.
Right. Yeah.
And
it's your
also,
choice.
And also, let's not forget that you are going to, if it's a competition that has got so many entries in it, and you get to the top of that competition, you get some recognition for that at the end of the day.
Right.
And that could come in the form of a job. I think that I get sent, I don't know why they're sending it to me, because I can't help you, but I get sent a lot of sketches recently about, and with the question, how, please help me sell this, and it doesn't, that sort of scenario that we were talking about, I don't know how much that happens now. I mean, maybe it does, but I don't think it happens all that much. It generally, the system doesn't really work like that. I mean, at least, it doesn't. I mean,
well, what I was referring to when we would commission work, what I found, especially in China, was because you have a budget, and they would come up with like literally, you get like 3 renderings, right, and you get like a front 3/4 side, rear 3/4. So you got then 3 designs, 9 renderings that took hours each to complete. And the energy in order to make these beautiful renderings versus the ideas.
Yes.
And that's where I don't need to see pretty renderings. At the end, we can make visualization, whatever. We can do that in the studio. You should be paying for ideas. And with this outsourcing, yes, then you can make the argument you're getting maybe a lot of ideas, for as a challenge for quite cheap, actually.
I think I completely fucked that question up. What I meant to...
Oh, did I misunderstood it, maybe.
No, I think basically what I feel is important now to kind of set the record straight for some person that is drawing in his bedroom that hasn't necessarily worked as a designer, that the chances of him doing this sketch or this drawing of a car in his bedroom and selling that to a company, what are the chances of that happening?
I would say slim.
Okay. That's okay.
To use a technical term.
Okay. And but why would you say it's slim?
Well, because first of all, as you mentioned, the talent in these companies. I mean, these companies, they pick the best of the best. And if you think about how many car companies now, there's a lot more than there used to be. They're pumping a lot of cars, but you think about a design department.
Okay.
It's typically one of the smallest departments in an OEM.
Okay.
Right? When you have engineers, thousands of engineers, marketing, huge departments. Design, quite small. And then you think about all the car companies in the world.
Yes.
You know, there's not a huge amount.
Okay.
And then that's your chance to be a designer, right? So the talent levels in these companies is already extremely high. So in order for you to, in your bedroom, be doing this doodle and you're competing with the best in the industry, yeah, I think the chances are pretty slim that yours is going to be the next, the next top model.
Would you say slim to fuck all, or
I wouldn't say don't do it. I would
No.
still encourage to do it.
no? But what I'm saying is it needs. I guess, like, having somebody like James say that the chances are of you selling a picture, because
No, I agree with you, of
because it's like they're saying, like, okay, I want to sell my design, but it's not a design. I mean, it's an image that you put on a piece of paper, but as you've just highlighted, that the difference between an image and a product is, they're worlds apart. You're not selling a design, like, define a design. Is it a volume? Is it just an idea?
Yeah.
But some image that you've created that probably needs quite a lot of work for it to be on a professional level is not really a design.
Yeah, but then again, there might be features. And I do encourage everybody to send whatever they like. I mean, for designers, if you're keen, you just open, have a look. And if you're curious enough, eventually you spot a feature, or at least you release a comment to him back. So worth to do it. Of course, this is not going to give you a job. Not even the sketch challenge is going to give you a job. I don't think that's the aim of it. But rather let people working or not, working on other companies to have the freedom, for example, in the case of Koenigsegg, to play around a different kind of package, and so on. But back to the experience of, like, for example, studying and then trying to submit something. I do remember, for example, when I was studying, there was still like this BMW M3 to be called M3, meaning that 3 doors was the M3, not the M4.
Yeah.
And we were all sketching the idea of having the headlamps being connected to the front grille. And that's what actually happened then with the advent of the M4.
Okay.
So now, of course, none of us has sent such thing and such bad doodle to BMW, and definitely they did think about that earlier. But it can be that a random student can make a doodle, his own design, and then eventually spot a feature that then might become interesting for the company.
Yeah. It's not impossible.
No.
So the other thing, what I touched on last time, was when you are in a company, there's a company culture, right? And sometimes these can be a little conservative. You've got people who've been there a while, and they've built up the design language, and they've built up the current model line, and maybe they're a little bit kind of stuck in their ways. So this is a nice way to get kind of fresh ideas.
Okay.
And in the sense that there's no such thing as a bad idea. Yeah. So
I want to say this in the most respectful way possible. And I'm talking about. I'm not talking about. I'm going to sound like I'm contradicting myself, but I need to just put it out there. Aldo, what you've just said now with regards to encouraging people to draw and to put their stuff out, I encourage it 110%. Anybody, it doesn't matter where they're from, how old they are, what gender. I encourage it. If you love it, if you're passionate about it, you should definitely do it. What I'm trying to get at is maybe for us to be clear about, maybe that you should have some sort of self-awareness to know that to look at what you've done and compare it to, maybe the level that you're seeing on Instagram, and really question, like, is my work at that level? And if it's not, that's fine. You should always aspire to get better, especially if you're passionate about it. But you shouldn't be deluded in thinking that somebody is going to buy buy that design of you. It's not to say that you can't make money out of it completely.
Yeah.
You might, somebody might say, I really like that image. Let's buy a print of that. I think that's maybe a better way of articulating what I'm saying.
But that absolutely, that's I think that's very well said.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thanks, James. I'm going to mix things up a little bit this is a new thing. I'm going to pass this list on to you. You can pick a question and then we can go. And then maybe we can pass it on to Aldo.
Wow. A lot of questions, huh?
Yeah,
So that's
it is.
good.
So
a lot of good feedback.
Because I felt that I was stumbling a little bit. So I let the clever guys do the magic. Hand over the responsibility. Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot here.
Nice haircut, by the way, Aldo.
Oh, it's self-made actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Designer.
It's yeah.
Designing his own hair.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Very nice.
Yeah. With what's left, I try to get creative.
Shoes as well.
This
Big fan.
Doesn't appear on camera. No, I think.
I want to pick I want to pick a good one.
Sorry, I've got is that what?
We could go through, but I see a
No,
couple.
we don't have to go
and,
there. Just pick one.
I see a couple that we did answer already, like 18 and 19 here, like how much is the importance of grades in the end, and is it important to master all the skills or be unique in your own? Well,
okay, let's talk
How
about
important are grades in the end?
that. Okay, that's
I like that one.
That is a very good
yeah,
one.
you like it?
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, let's go.
Then go for it.
Oh, okay. I go and then you go. Well, I'll give you an example. When I was in school, I was taking some, I don't know, because you have to have you've got your core courses for industrial design.
Yeah.
And then you've got these other things like, philosophy and all this kind of normal academic studies that go together to make your credit so you can graduate. And I had to write some, 10-page philosophy paper for the end of the course. And I went to the teacher and I said, what would be my grade if I don't write this? And he goes, well, you'll get like a C-, which in the American system is, it's not good, but because of all the previous work I'd done in the course, I would pass.
Okay.
I get the credit. I said, okay, great. I didn't write the paper. And the reason was because I felt it was more important to spend the time on my presentation wall and my model, which were the things that were going to get me the job, versus you have these people come in from the industry and they're like, well, your model's not finished, or yeah, but I got this A+ on this philosophy paper. They don't care. Car designers don't care about that. The industry leaders, they're hiring you for what's on your wall, what you're presenting to them, not your philosophy paper. So I took the hit on that grade to put the effort in where I knew it was important.
Okay.
Not recommending that.
No, but that's a really useful bit of information. It really, really is.
Yeah, but it's my impression. Now maybe you have a different impression. Was grades? No one said, I want to hire this person. They seem super talented. But you got a C+, and never mind.
Yeah, totally.
No one cared about that.
Absolutely,
they cared about your skill.
Yeah, the industry doesn't care about grades, and not even the ultimate grade you come out with. I don't think they even ask you the piece of paper, as we said last time. But grades might be important for yourself. Like grades might motivate you. So I can clearly remember, like I spent like my 5 years of high school studying like Latin, ancient Greek, things I wasn't capable of, and getting terrible grades, like way below mediocrity. And then my very first exam at university in IED in Torino, I got the maximum plus merit. So I went back home and I just cried, to be honest. And I just started crying. Why? Because I spent like 5 years terribly. Then I went there and like my father was even skeptical about me studying car design. So he got me like a terribly teeny tiny apartment where I could just sit on my chair and spin around and do everything from staying at the desk, staying at the kitchen, looking TV, or staying at the bed. So he didn't put too many expectations on me succeeding in that. But this first grade was a terribly good emotion.
point.
Let me call it emotion, to just say, okay, we started something new. I might be good at it. So grades for yourself might be a great
build
way
up the
to
confidence.
build up the confidence,
the-
benchmark also at least within the class how you're going.
Yeah. But that's a good point as well, because when I first went to school, I touched upon this in the last one. I was incredibly intimidated. I was like, the level of that school was so high, and the people who got kicked out along the way with the 2 probations was so high that it was just seen as, climbing Everest. But to get that confidence, I started to get the confidence when you start to, the teachers start to give you feedback, and you're doing a crappy job, and then all of a sudden, hey, no, this is pretty good. Oh, great. And all that helps to build your confidence.
It is, but where do you draw the line between? How do you identify when the teacher doesn't know what they're talking about?
I mean, I think we were fortunate. We had good teachers.
Okay.
We had good teachers.
Okay. I'm not saying that,
But I know what you mean.
That I didn't,
know what
but
you
it's
mean.
not. The point is that they don't always get it right.
That's true. That's true.
And I think that the danger with placing that much importance on grades is that it can give you confidence if you're being marked in a favorable way, but it can also do the opposite. And I think that it can also do the opposite where you are not getting the grades. It's a very expensive thing. I'm gonna throw the whole thing on the head and just be straight up with everybody and say that I got like the highest grade that you could at university, but my portfolio was fucking terrible, and I'm in hindsight I can see that I was so over the moon with that result. This is what I'm talking about. I was so over the moon with that result, and we all of us were phoning each other like, what did you get? What did you get? And I was like, yeah, I got a first. And I was like, I still couldn't believe it, but I did. And but I was like, at the end of the day, like what you said about what's on your wall, your model, those are the things that are going to get you the attention to get you the job, which is why you're studying in the first place. And it's easy to be bogged down by these metrics in the short term.
I agree. And I mean, I'm just speaking from my experience with the school I went to.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But that was really useful, you saying that, James. Like, and your point as well, Aldo. Like, it's also, I got immense, I got, when things were going well for me, like in for certain modules or whatever, and you got a good mark, it was great. I got a lot of confidence out of it. But I think also in hindsight, for me anyway, I think your system was pretty solid. But I felt that in hindsight, it maybe gave me a false sense of security at times. Getting a B or a 6 or 70% or whatever the case is. And it's like, yeah, academically, that's a really good mark at university. But let's not forget that you are ultimately, one day going to be hired for
you're judged with what's on your wall.
Exactly. Okay.
That's what you're judged.
Okay. That's.
And I would have actually, if I'd written that paper, I would have gotten the honor, been on the honor roll, which was a 3.5 out of 4 grade point average. Again, that's the American system. But to me, it didn't matter.
James, you made a lot of smart choices.
In hindsight,
yes. But did you
lucky?
Did your parents influence any of that?
My parents made the unfortunate mistake of giving my brother and me a great gift. And the gift was that they said, and I come from Canada where education subsidized. So in education, it costs money, but it's It's not that expensive versus a private school in the States.
Okay.
Right. And they said, we're going to pay for your first shot at university or college. And that's our gift to kind of, send you out of the nest and into the world with a boost. Right. I wasn't good at math. I wasn't good at these. I didn't get into any universities in Canada. And you have to actually apply to them as part of your senior year in school. You need to fill out applications as part of the curriculum and send them. I got rejection letters, right? Because my grades just weren't that good.
But what were you applying for?
Arts and science, that really tough course to get into.
Right.
But at CCS, the design school, you do a portfolio. You make a portfolio. That was the main criteria. Again, talking about the work on your wall is the critical thing. It was also similar to get in. Yeah, you had to have a certain level of grades, but that wasn't the fundamental standard to get in. But then my father, who was a civil engineer and university professor, I'm going to art school in the States, and you know what? It costs a bit more than going to school in Canada.
Okay.
Yeah. But they honored the commitment. That was the one crack. They said, if I come back, I'm paying for the next one. And I'm not sure in hindsight, they didn't regret it, but I can tell you it wasn't an easy thing.
Wow.
But they stuck to their word, and I gave them a bit of a big bill in the end.
Yeah.
But I was also extremely fortunate that I had that opportunity.
Okay.
And it was a big sacrifice for them. So thanks, Mom and Dad.
Okay. Thanks, Mom and Dad. You're going to be famous now.
It's better than me being on the couch in front of the TV right now, drinking beer and watching chips.
Absolutely,
so it worked out for everyone.
Do they know how to fire up YouTube? Do they know how to fire up YouTube? Do your parents know how to use it?
No.
Okay.
No, my mom, I tried to get her to use the iPad. I bought her an iPad so we can Skype and things. And I'm like, you got to turn it on.
Yes.
No, you got to use the home button, right? And she's like, where's the home button? I go, it's the button on the bottom of the screen. She goes, there's no button on the bottom of the screen. I go, yes, there is. There's a button on the bottom of the screen. Oh, that button, that's the on-off button. No, nightmare.
Okay.
I'm sure you have a similar.
No, well, I should say thanks to Mom and Dad as well,
tech-savvy.
because you see, the grades are more important for them maybe than to me, because they are those who are sponsoring you. At least this was my experience as well. So my father didn't put that much trust that I could have succeeded. So he as well said, look, do 1 year, let's see how it goes. And then the grades were rather more important for him than for me. To believe in, my son can be successful into something that specifically, and I can invest in that.
Okay.
But they know how to tune into YouTube, but they don't know English. So so they were glad to know you're doing this podcast and really curious about. But then we either work on subtitles, or I have to speak alongside with them watching it.
Is that what you did?
They asked me to. I had the time when I was in Italy now, but
you're right. My parents were much more concerned about grades.
Really? Yeah.
Oh yeah.
No, but I think
because I'd show them what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And they're like, why are we paying you? I did this concept that had these tracks on it. And it was kind of weird. And they go, my mom literally said to me, why are we paying you to go to school to design something that looks like a milkweed pod?
A milkweed pod. What is milkweed pod?
Well, milkweed is a plant. It grows in,
okay.
We have lots of them in Canada. And they've got these kind of invasion of the body snatchers pods that grow off them, and then you open them and they have this white substance. It looks like milk, so it's called milkweed.
Yes, no, sorry, I know which one.
Right.
It is. Yes. No, I do know. I'm with you.
But they could relate to the grades and not the milkweed pod inspired design.
I'm with you. Okay.
Yeah, true. No, I would pick the 23rd just because I like the number.
Okay, what's the 23rd?
But they're all good anyway. It says in car design, is it often said that one sketch is enough to tell a lot about him, her, and how valid is this statement? And so it's valid because when, as I said last time, when you work, you're doing business, unless you're lucky enough maybe to be the big boss. And so it's business, and you don't make the car for yourself. You make the car eventually for the customer, or before the customer, you make the car for your director. So when I design a car, beyond how much I would love to have a specific setup in the interior, for example, I still have to follow my director's indication. So it's a bit like the movie industry. Like the director is like the director of the movie. He comes to me. He comes with his own gut feeling, his own idea or inspiration, and then I have to take whatever he shows me and I have to nurture that and give it a shape. So when you see a sketch of mine, eventually you see rather the car that I tailor first of all to my boss wishes or inputs, and then of course the car that should fit the customer, and then in a third layer, eventually I try to influence that with my personal understanding and with my personal experience or preferences. Of course, I'm learning more and more, and I'm encouraged more and more, luckily, to try to do the car in a way that I would definitely like it. And I cannot say, this part is like this, not because of me, I would have done it different. But, they asked me to. No, this shouldn't happen. So I'm encouraged more and more to try to put my own personality into what I design. But then again, first of all, I trust my director and I try to shape designs according to what he asks and what he expressed to me. And I also try to translate what he shows, because not always is a clear input. And second, comes the customer. So you have the input eventually from marketing, or you have many kinds of inputs. Eventually, you even speak with the customer face-to-face or even Instagram, once again. And therefore, you keep the customer in mind and you try to shape the car for them. Thirdly, there is your own personality. So if you see a sketch and you understand exactly, from that sketch, I can imagine the designer has such kind of personality. It doesn't really work in the studio.
Is the question like how much you can see somebody's personality in their sketch?
Yeah,
that's
asking. Yeah, it's asking once again. Like it's said that one sketch is enough to tell a lot about him, her.
Ah, okay.
I don't know if you have this. On Instagram or on LinkedIn, there was a sketch, and it was from a company. So, and they was actually promoting HR, we're hiring type thing, and they used a designer sketch, and I'm like, that looks like this person's sketch. So I asked them, I go, yeah, that's my sketch. So sometimes I can actually tell a person's sketch. It's almost like a fingerprint.
Yeah, or handwriting.
Yeah, or handwriting. Yeah. Not always, but sometimes, I'm like, yeah, I'm, that, and that tells me that this person has really their own character to their sketching, which I think is really nice. It's really,
you should seek that out.
I think so. Okay. As a creative discipline versus as a business model, but as you as the designer, as a creative discipline, absolutely. I think it brings individual art. What I think we're missing a little bit from when we used to do it on paper. Everything looks much more slick, much more polished, much more post-production kind of stuff. But you miss that kind of identity in the sketch. And I used to be able to do it much more when it was hand-drawn. But you can still see when people sketch, I can still sometimes see, oh, that's this person. No signature on it. I call them up, yep, that's my sketch.
But this is because of the representation. Like you define the identity by the way it's represented, the sketch, but not by the ideation, or also by the quality
by the way it's sketched. Exactly. Not the design, but the technique.
Yeah. So what I referred to was more like the kind of ideation, the content of ideas in the sketch. But of course, he refers to the crafting, technique.
The individual technique.
Well, I think the question was.
So maybe I got the question wrong.
No, you got the other side of it.
Oh, okay, right.
Makes
there's
sense.
No wrong,
sure.
James.
All right.
Nothing's wrong.
I like this. That's how a team building should be.
Yes, there's nothing wrong here. Nothing wrong at all. I will ask a question. You can look for another one now at the moment.
Yeah.
If there is
versus us spending 10 minutes reading them.
Exactly. That's what I wanted to avoid. You pick out a sketch. I'll ask him something quickly. I had a question. Also, it wasn't from this gentleman. It was from somebody else. With regards to, it's kind of connected to the idea of selling a design to somebody. But the question was, what are your thoughts on starting a design consultancy straight out of university?
Yeah, it's.
Can you talk about the complexities of that? Number one, with regards to maybe your lack of experience, but also, but more importantly, the other thing that we talked about.
Well, people have done it,
and
right? And there's a lot of people who've become quite famous doing it. Arguably more on the product side of things, but I from my personal feeling, and it's a tough road, and I think you need those personal connections that are in the industry in order to help you along the way. And like you mentioned, there's just a ton of stuff on the internet, a ton of stuff you can draw on. If you're say you're in a product company, and you're looking for ideas, I mean, you can. There's a lot of content out there these days. So how do you stand out from that, and from the design team that they should have, or normally do have? So I think there's opportunities that you need to find, maybe like niches in the industry where there's a company doing something and you offer your services. Typically, they don't have the budgets if they're starting out because they're trying to get on their feet. But what I would say is, if you have connections in the industry, or submit your designs to every one of these online contests. I know people who've done that, and they've done quite well, and they get a little bit of, normally get a little bit of money, but they also get maybe some recognition, something in their portfolio. But it's challenging. It's really, really challenging. If you're like a Philippe Stark, or if you're one of these designers who've kind of established that. I think it's a long, tough road, but again, my feeling is, if you're passionate, you're willing to put the time in, and see where it goes, go for it.
Sorry, 1 second. Okay. Mark Newson's quite an interesting point.
Mark Newson's a great example. Yeah. Done really well.
He's done very well, actually.
Very, really, really very well.
He's done. Yeah, we've got to give a lot of respect to Mark Newson.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But he started out doing furniture, and as far as I understand,
he? Okay, I don't know. I know
there was. I think there was one chair.
His Lockheed Lounge was. I think
that was like the big thing, wasn't it?
Yeah, in the Madonna video, it certainly didn't hurt.
No, I wouldn't have thought
his profile.
So, no. Yes, no. Before Instagram came along, he just dropped the Lockheed in the Madonna music video.
Well, I also can't do else than respect him, because he has one of the few left Bugatti Type 59, and he was showing it off in Villa d'Este.
But again, to your point, he's done very well.
Yeah, he's done very well. He's done pretty good. Yeah.
So yeah.
But you know what? So I was actually so I'm going to quote him again. There was a book, and I don't know, it was called Move or something. Move. I don't know. Whatever. I will link it in the video. But I'm pretty sure it was him, and he said that designing an interior of a car is like creating lots of different products that together need to create, that need to make up one thing.
Well, yeah, he worked on the Ford 021C.
Was that? Yeah,
the orange, which at the time was really cool. It was really fresh because it wasn't this polished, slick, Cadillac-y type thing. It was this really kind of urban. It was almost
a 3-box product.
Yeah. But it had some, like the trunk was like this drawer you pull. It was really innovative, and still looks fresh today because probably because of its simplicity.
Okay.
But I also understood that, I mean, that complexity of that product was a big challenge.
Yeah.
Well, versus doing a piece of furniture, of course.
Oh,
Of
okay.
course.
Yeah, sure.
You know?
But I mean,
and I think that may have been his. I don't want to speak for him, but it may have been his first foray into doing an full automotive product.
I want to say this only because I watched this online and it's public, but there was an interview that I saw with Jay Mays where he said, because as I understood it, he might have been responsible for involving Mark on this particular project.
Right.
And so they were like, okay, great. We've got Mark Newson on board and he's going to design a car with us. And they were like, cool, let's see the sketches. And he basically gave them a fucking Post-it note with the 3 box like that, like a child's drawing.
Right.
And Jay was like, he completely like shat himself because he was like, how the fuck am I going to go to the board and say that we spent all this money and this guy's given us this kid's drawing?
Well, how do you sell it to leadership? Because in the automotive studio, right, you've got the beautiful sketches.
Or the beautiful renderings.
Or beautiful renderings. Mark Newson's showing up with ideas.
Right.
Right?
Okay.
Takes confidence.
Yeah.
Good
point.
That was fascinating. That came. I don't know. Was that around the time of that Mustang that you guys did?
It was before.
Okay, but it was early 2000.
Or it was. I want to say 1999 2000 time frame.
Yeah,
I'd have to look it up, but around that time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really liked that. It was.
Well, even the name 021C, which was the Pantone color chip that the orange paint was. That's where the name came from.
So everyone should go and seek out the 021C.
Absolutely.
It was a very cool thing. Have we got another question, Aldo?
Totally. Back from the first ones, we have this, why does almost every transportation mobility design aspirant go for exterior design? And so it touches me a bit. But, with the words of one of my former bosses, the answer would be because no car magazine has an interior on the first page, but only exteriors. But I think it goes a bit more beyond. And as James has said, the exterior is a bit more emotional thing. But I also think that everybody, as a child, even as a toddler growing up, has visual access to exteriors, like Alan has taught us, but not eventually interior access. So the more you're lucky, or you have the chance to have access to the interior of the cars, or to experience the cars, to try them out, no matter what kind of car, the more you will start being concerned about, okay, this has a nice grip, the steering wheel has a nice grip, or rather this particular functionality is a bit I don't understand the position of this function, I would have placed it here. And this leads all to the reason of being a designer. You might realize that there is something you either like a lot or you don't understand that much, and you want to change it, you want to improve it. And that's where you start becoming eventually a interior designers, because you care a lot about the experience behind the product, behind the steering wheel.
I feel a little bit. I
Mic
feel a
drop.
little bit unqualified to talk on this, but it's you don't need to be an expert to have this opinion. But I was going to say that there was a saying. I was going to say that there's a saying that the exterior is what will maybe entice you into the car, and the interior is the thing that will keep you inside.
I was gonna touch on that.
Okay.
When I would sometimes present cars to the press, I would talk about it's from far to near. So I'd say, okay, this car, talk about proportion, down the road graphics. You notice this car, what makes it unique, from a distance, right? Then I said, once you get that, right, nice wheel, everything's in proportion, everything looks good, but it should attract you to come closer.
So sorry, just to stop you in your tracks there. Down the road graphics. Can you elaborate?
The big picture graphics, like the front grille. Audi's the perfect example with the full face grille, right? You see that's an Audi from, a mile away.
Okay.
Right. Okay. You can tell what that car is.
Okay.
So those are very bold, strong, down the road, graphics that you see from a distance.
Okay.
Right, big picture.
Very good.
Then when you come to the car, so it should attract you. Like, oh, what's that over there? I want to go check that out. That looks pretty cool. That looks nice. I like that. The details, headlamps, grille texture, all that's the wheels, that should keep you there, right? So the proportions and graphics draw you in. The details keep you there. Then the interior is where you live. So it should invite you then into the interior. So that's the progression from seeing the car from a distance to coming up close. Because if you go to a car and you see it from a distance and it's like, oh, what's this? Then you just, whatever, I'm not so interested. But if you're like, look at this headlamp, what's in there? It's LED, and oh, look at this. They put some detail in there. And you're all of a sudden like really intrigued by it. And I think so my point is, I think that's the role of the designer from exterior to interior.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that's no, but you've elaborated on that point and quite eloquently so.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. So, Aldo, do you have one more?
No, not really. I leave it with I mean, I could just pick randomly. But yeah, I just to wrap it up on that argument, I think it's also because, not so many people have there are more people having visual access to exterior of cars rather than people having access to practicing and driving cars. So I think that's also why most of us just stop at the exterior, at the exterior design concerns, rather than questioning themselves about what's happening what's happening inside the car and how is the experience while driving it.
At the risk of going over the same thing that we've possibly covered either in earlier episodes or even today, do you think that the interior can become the rock star in the future?
I won't say the rock star. I mean, I don't think the car at all is a rock star for the future.
but if you were to use that analogy, where at the moment the exterior is the rock star.
Hopefully, well, what I mean by interior is mostly the experience, but it stops at one point where there is all of this invisible design, no? So I think the invisible design is all another kind of thing, and I don't think interior design is gonna be the rockstar. Eventually, it's gonna be a collaboration between interior and all of these invisible features. But I also think that the more you go further to the future, the more people are quite shallow or have less free time and can experience less the products. And if that's the scenario, then they would stop to say, oh, that's a nice car, that's not a nice car, this is a car that might represent me, this is a car that would equal to a nice dress on me, but I can't afford it, sadly, and so on. But they would never experience the cars by renting them a weekend and try them out and see what they really perceive like.
Okay.
And that would not be in the favor of the interior design, because nobody would care. They would just look at the cars on the street.
There you go.
I think this is interesting. What do you feel the future holds for someone wanting to be a clay modeler? Now, for people who don't know, clay modelers are the people who sculpt the cars and actually make the physical surface by hand, even today in most OEMs. I think that's a really good question, because I'm very traditional, and I made sure we had clay modeling when I was looking after things, because I personally, and I'd really like to get your opinion on this, I personally think that it's very difficult to match that hand sculpted feeling. Those real artisans, those real professionals who make that section just perfect. And you can see, I can see a car that's been basically popped out of the computer on the cheap, and one that's been hand sculpted, in beautiful sections, and the way the highlights and the shadows reflect on the surface. But I am a little bit under the impression that art is going away. I don't know how quickly, because I still think it's really important, but digital modeling is, I think, slowly coming more to the forefront. Which I think is fine as long as they can ensure that they can maintain that quality, if they care about that quality, and I think they should. But I think that's an interesting question.
Yeah, I don't know how much to encourage people to bet on that career, because in our studio we have 0 clay modelers. We do develop even outside 0 clay models, and when I've arrived 2013, we had 1 clay modeler, and all I've seen him working on was just the crown of the transition from our Kent rail to our rear fender, and that's what he did for months.
Can you explain the term crown?
Yeah, well, that's a
Positive surface.
Yeah, the how that convex volume was,
that's true.
and the
It's,
reflections over that volume were nicely sliding over the rear fender. You know, this is a surface on that specific car was the Chiron, where there is nothing going on over that whole area of the car other than sheer beauty, because you have no cheesy theoretical lines, and you just have a nicely crowned surface, so meaning a nicely inflated convex surface that generates beautiful reflection. It's comparable, if you like, to the rear fender of a 911.
Okay.
So it's something that just by volume, not by lines and art edges, is describing beauty, eventually thanks to the light and everything reflecting onto the car, rather than by you catching a feature by a line precisely defined. And back to the modeler, that's what he did for months. Maybe it was needed, and my colleague spent months next to him just to tune this crown. So this speaks for the level of quality in the surfacing of that specific car. But on the other hand, we did recognize that digital modeling speeds up everything. So if I have to make a comment towards the workflow, I would just say, okay, we do digital model, fair enough, it's great. We have talented people, we can verify a lot of things thanks to this. We just need to cut on the overstructure of suppliers, get 3D printers ourselves, and get things printed on the same day or in the same week. No, so we need to cut on the realization time and the realization cost. But we started doing that by cutting on clay models. For sure, I understand all the beauty of this craft that is gonna be missed. And but sadly, I have no experience at all with clay modelers other than what I did play with in the university. So I can't understand really the difference.
Clearly, that's the direction the industry is going. But I would ask you, when you mill out then an exterior full size, are the people generally happy with what comes out of the computer? Because I've just had so many shocks at looking at a screen and then saying, "Oh, that looks really good," and everything, and then you mill it out, and you're like, "Oh, what happened?" And then going back in and hand modeling it. But I think the modelers are also getting more.
You have not been working with the right digital modelers, James.
Well, that's maybe what's been happening. Because it was also in its infancy, so I've kind of grown with that.
Right.
But
I noticed my first proper job in an OEM was they still using a lot of clay to my knowledge. In those days there was a lot more, and Alias has been around for a long time now, obviously, but they were starting to do these hard models, but not spending 60 or 100 grand on a semi-finished thing. It was proportional evaluation with white or blue foam.
Right.
And so, yes, of course, you need a physical evaluation. The beauty, obviously, at clay is that in this moment, you can go, shit, we just need to take a little bit out of the body side and we can slick it out a little bit. But with the hard model, you don't necessarily, you can't really make those kind of changes. You can tape it and you can assess it and go, okay, cool, I think we need to bring the fenders down by X amount. It's but you know, a lot of there are some brilliant digital modelers out there that can, and when you marry that with a designer that can is in tune with that sort of thing, it's not that you can't get the results with digital.
Right.
And you should definitely, of course, you assess it. You should assess the physical, but it's not that you can't get that feeling out of digital.
Oh no, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. A lot of my surprises were arguably more on the proportion side.
Yeah, sure.
You know, because you're looking at a screen. Now you can put it in the VR room, blow it up full size, but still, you're looking at a screen, and then you blow it up. And my experience was, why are the windows so big, or you know why? And I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, that happen. I guess that happens definitely. I mean, you always get proportional surprises, but I don't. I mean,
I did.
Yeah.
Unless you carry over everything.
Right. But you're right. The sculpture, I guess you can just fine tune it, but you always have to prove it out as well, right?
Yeah.
So you have to, at some stage, mill out that surface, whether it's a hard model, a foam model, or a clay model, and see what that surface is doing. Put dye knock on it, take it outside, because then it also becomes a different animal.
Yes.
And then I was sometimes shocked at some of the.
Yeah, no, I have to answer to James, and I mean, we generally do this not for interiors but for exteriors. Luckily, I've been welcome often to hang around my exterior colleagues and have a look at the cars when we mill them out and we put them in the park plots and we look at them. Of course, the team is never that 100% happy, and we always have to improve something. And even though I do interiors, I also go in the evening next to the car that has been milled, and I start sliding the hand around and cuddling the car and try to understand the surface just for my own understanding. Not that I can support the exterior team, but I think still digital and quick milling or quick printing could be the way. Just try to cut on the production side, meaning cut the times and produce in-house. And for the understanding of the surfaces, again, like if I would have the chance to say every exterior designer, like, hey, clean the car by hand, wash the car by hand, not just the car we're working on, but all the cars that are here outside, that would let people understand so much about treatments and volumes and transitions. Because the moment you're washing a car by hand, you really slide your hand over all the surfaces and you start getting the understanding. So I think that would be the exercise to be done also on the milled models eventually. Just pretend to be washing it, slide your hand everywhere, and understand where we miss volume, where we can improve things. But I'm an interior designer, so
but I agree with interior design. You're dealing with smaller components and bits and bobs, and that for the Alias software, that's ideal. On exterior, I still subscribe to the hand modeling at a certain point in the process. Now, as technology is moving forward quickly, I could see that going away, you know, with VR and all this crazy stuff that they're coming out with now. So, it would be future. I think you said it perfectly. I wouldn't bank on a career in that.
Okay.
I think that's well said.
I think we need to start wrapping up, unfortunately, because we have some
because we have lives.
Yes. No, but
time for pizza.
Yeah, guys. I think that was hopefully quite interesting for other people to listen to and to watch, and we do something like this again in the future. I don't know. There was a different format, different perspective.
Trying something new.
Yes. Yeah. So thank you very much, James, Aldo. Much respect.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Sam.
Klaus, thank you.
Klaus.
Yeah. Indeed. Thanks, Klaus.
Klaus, thank you.
The man behind the scenes.
Okay. So great. Yeah. So we have.